Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to today's presentation, 5 Tips to Elevate Your Healthcare Brand with Event Management. We know that patient choice is paramount in today's healthcare landscape. With so many options for hospitals, providers, and services, how can your organization stand out in your community? What we are currently seeing is that in the healthcare industry, a lot of organizations are starting to host events with the purpose of forming relationships with their community, their future patients, and current patients. In today's presentation, we plan on overviewing 5 tips that we've seen to better present your organization and brand to your community through event management. So, wanted to hop into today's agenda really quick. We're gonna just take you through a roadmap of the presentation today. We're going to have some welcome and introductions of today's speakers. We're going to talk about what we know today to be true of the healthcare landscape. We're going to then hop into the 5 tips that we at Dude Solutions have seen to better your event management at your hospital or your healthcare organization. And then we're going to talk about taking the next step. Where do you go from here? Then we're going to have some time at the end to close out, answer some questions that we've had on today's topics, anything that we want to do in regards to questions that have come in during today's presentation. So a couple of housekeeping items before I hop in to introduce our speakers. All lines are muted, so if you have any questions, please feel free to refer them to the Q&A or chat feature. If you do have any technical difficulties, please utilize the chat or Q&A feature and I will get you all set up. If for some reason you do get booted throughout the presentation, please sign back in the same way that you signed in the first time. And then following the conclusion of today's presentation, you will have access to the recording of it. And at the end, again, we are going to reserve about 10 to 15 minutes to tackle any questions that we receive from the audience. So please feel free to go ahead and start sending those in if you have them already. So now to introduce today's presenters, we have got Trevor Bergholz. He is a solutions consultant for Dude Solutions, who is the SaaS market leader for operations management software. In his role, Trevor engages organizations through online product presentations while sharing best practices with current and prospective clients in order to increase efficiency, communication, and process consistency with a focus on event management. Trevor credits his work ethic and drive for excellence to his family and his time spent in the United States Air Force. My name, the guy who's been talking the past couple minutes, is Zach Kunkel, and I'm the healthcare marketing lead for Dude Solutions. And in the past 3 years of working with the Dude, my focus has been on teaching best practices around managing and marketing events with a focus on how technology can alleviate some of the most common pain points we see in that process today. So before we hop into the content, I would love to just get a feel for who all we have in the audience and how you would say your current event management program runs today. Would you say that it's perfect, that you're in great shape, you don't need any help at all? There are only a couple things maybe you could change. Maybe it's so-so and you have some work to do. Or maybe it's in rough shape. You kind of have a process, an approval process, a process to get events managed and promoted, but there's obviously room for improvement. Or last but not least, maybe it's non-existent and that's why you're here to learn. So I'll leave this up for a little bit longer. All right. So without further ado, thanks for answering that. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trevor.
I appreciate that, Zach. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share out my screen here. All right. Thank you so much. So what do we know today to be true? So we know that there are over 7,500 hospitals in the United States and Canada. And with that, patients can be overwhelmed by just the sheer amount of choices. Now, the Amazon effect is now touching the healthcare industry. And what the Amazon effect represents is the shift away from brick and mortar to online shopping. And now we're seeing that same kind of mindset when it comes to choosing a healthcare provider. Doctors.com has conducted a survey looking over about 1,000 patients nationwide. And patients conduct an online search, and it will shift their experience if that search doesn't mimic their typical online experience. So what we're seeing there is that today's patients are searching for the service before there is a need. So you need to be on top of their minds before there is a need. Now, what does this mean? This means that people are searching for healthcare almost like they're shopping for a new TV. Is your website enough or engaging enough to keep them there? This goes for like the same part of every part of your website experience, through every click of the mouse throughout your whole site. You want to be the first place that people think of before that internet search, so they go straight to that source. So ask yourselves questions like, how do we keep people engaged after they learn about our facilities? So after someone has come to your facilities, they've looked around or they've searched you, how do we keep them engaged? Well, we find that the events that you hold can help in promoting community engagement, as well as keeping you at the top of their list. So here is an example of the importance of community engagement. People will line up for half-off sales, for any brick and mortar store or for the latest iPhone releases, but they will probably never be lining up for your latest MRI machine or latest service offering, because it really doesn't present an immediate need for most people. So how do you get the public to know about your latest and greatest offerings? And this is where we have seen events come into play to help healthcare organizations, especially nowadays. So with a greater emphasis on events in healthcare, events create awareness without being self-serving. But at the same time, you can keep your current and former patients engaged through events. And this leads to building your brand reputation. And brand plays an extremely large role in today's digital world. So events then help to raise awareness before the patient has a need and is looking for services. And if the patient trusts you and stays loyal to the care that you provide, the events you hold can continue to create engagement in the future after they've already left your facilities. So you always want to stay on top of mind, and events can help you do that. So let's dig into the 5 tips to better your event management. Now, the starting point is that there are a lot of people involved in the event process. Do we know who that is or who those people are? And do we know where to go to when we have questions, or where do we need to get started? Do you know the process of managing events? Again, where do you start? Who has the final say? How do you know what is available to you? These are all questions that you need to know in order to streamline that process and make it as efficient as possible. Now, other questions you might want to ask yourself are, how are you managing your events? Do you communicate those events internally and externally, what needs to be done from creation to completion? Communication is key. So the first step is getting organized. You need to decide on what your goals are around offering events. And your goals should tie back into the organization-wide mission, the same goals and initiatives. Now, what type of events are you hosting, and how many? These are great questions as we're starting to get ourselves organized. Is there a certain time of year that you might want to create more engagement than others? And then we'll say, once you know your goals, then you need to decide what makes an event successful. And this can really differ by the different types of events that you're trying to hold and promote. So if you know what your goals are, you will know what you need as far as information that you need to track. Now, information's great, but we need to make sure that good data is there, because good data makes it easier for the stakeholders to buy into that same vision that everyone needs to be a part of. Now, another question is, how can you make your current process more streamlined and efficient? Here we have some examples on the screen. One might be if you have multiple calendars, maybe we need to move those multiple calendars into one centralized calendar so that everyone has the same vision overall, and we're not having to track from multiple spaces. And the same thing goes with a place to check where your conflicts may be. Different buildings, different locations. Are we putting those in the same place to make sure that we are not checking for the same conflicts or preventing those conflicts? Maybe we also need to set up some precise approval processes to take the guesswork out of that equation. Guesswork can always lead to problems. So having a exact, precise way to do things, that should set you up for success. Also, what we want to do is we want to connect everyone together at the same part of your event, no matter how minor that role may be. Every portion, every role, every person in that event process is important to make sure that the events that you're holding go off without a hitch. Now, pretty much in short, this is telling us that the right people, the right process, and the right technology will lead to success. So the next step is to stay consistent. Now, consistency needs to happen across the board. Is your calendar allowing for the same experiences as your main website? Are those transitions seamless? Now, if a person is browsing your site and happens upon a segment that is not designed the same way or have that same feel as the rest of your website, that can offer a negative and hard experience. And in today's world, those people that are used to shopping online, again, that Amazon effect, are likely to look elsewhere. So some questions to ask yourself are, is our logo present? Are our brands and colors visible and uniform? Is it easy to navigate our website? And is the process simple to register, to pay for maybe tickets or register to an event? And is it easily searchable to find that event that we want people to know about? Those are all great questions to ask yourself when we're trying to figure out, are we staying consistent with our goals? Now, in staying consistent, here's just an example of St. Luke's. Their website is beautiful. And by connecting your organization's name and brand with some healthy and fun events that can relate to your services while providing a process that is user-friendly, will result in fewer steps and less headaches. So really what that is win, win, win. Now, step 3 is to increase digital accessibility. Now, according to Time.com, 60% of patients expect their digital experience in healthcare to mirror their retail providers. There's that Amazon effect again. Now, most Americans spend, and this includes myself, spend a lot of our time on some form of electronic device throughout our day. Now, we spend on average 4 hours a day looking at our screens, and on average 2 of those are spent on social media sites. Crazy to think of where we are these days, but I am also a part of that potential problem. So this means that the expectations of those end users, this means the expectations need to become your reality. We need to be able to say, I can do this wherever I want, wherever I want, using the easiest tool for me. So the younger generations are more likely to use their phones, while older generations would rather use a tablet or a laptop, whatever's easiest. So why not be able to give them the same easy access all across the board? Now, the next step is to plan your promotion. Now, you can see this first part up top here is if you build it, they will come. We've all heard that before. But having an event doesn't mean people know about it. And even if people do know about it, that doesn't mean they're going to show up. So this is where your promotions come in. So that's equal parts of organizing and setting up and then promoting that event. And what I mean by that is, how are we promoting? A 5K run that you might be holding, 5K fun run, is going to be different than a doctor's speaking series. So in turn, you're going to have to promote those in different ways. So you have to ask yourself, what are you hosting? What do you want to host? And what are your goals for those individual events? And with those events, who's your ideal attendee for that event? And we need to start marketing specifically towards that demographic that we're trying to reach in order to have the best plan for our promotions. So some questions to ask yourselves. Are my events SEO or search engine optimization friendly? Google searches. If they Google our events or our facilities and hospital, will it come up? And there are different things where getting people to sign up is the first part, but the communication afterwards is just as important than the first step to make sure that you get them to that event. So things we want to ask ourselves again is it easily searchable? Is the experience seamless from when I start and to sign up to the end? And can I register email registrants before this event? Something to think about. So what we at Dude Solutions have been preaching for a while, and this is across the world and across the board, is that data drives decision making, but not just data, but the right data. Now, as you can see from this slide here, data can be organized into information, and from that, adding context to that information will create knowledge, and then that knowledge can then become actionable through proper promotion and integration. So gathering data and using insights is now paramount in all industries. So instead of using your opinion, bring data to the table. Hard data is always going to win out over opinions. Let's ask ourselves, am I looking at the right data as well, like I mentioned before? Data is great, but it's only if it's the right data. So what do we need to look at? Do we need to look at our key performance indicators, or we need to focus on the benchmarks that we're trying to achieve? And then once we look at those, are you able to review this data and utilize this information in real time? So data can be gathered from multiple sources, whether it's from internal requests, the departments that are hosting the events, or the internal processes of how many days does it take to set up this? You know, what is happening from when I first had the idea to starting the process, going through the motions, going through the different approvals to the end. We can get data from the registrations. How many people are registering? The location, the time of day. You know, are certain times of the day better than others? Having that data can help push your next decision when you're holding your next event. And the same thing goes with tickets and merchandising. And also, what do we want to learn not only during the event, but after the event? So maybe having a survey for those people who were there and have been to events before. What did we do well? What would you like to see change? Are there any trends that we're seeing from our surveys that are coming back from those people? So from there, let's talk about taking the next steps. And at Dude Solutions, we can help you streamline your process, an event process, from the start to completion, and the continuous engagement afterwards. Dude Solutions Event Management is a one-stop focal point for every step in your event planning process. So what I have here are some screenshots of our event management solution. So the first one is our admin dashboard. So this admin dashboard is going to help you keep track of information right from the get-go. Keep us apprised of what our facility usage is at. Maybe any event revenue or cost recovery that we are bringing in from different events. And also, what is pending? And what are the events that are coming up that we need to be aware of? Here's an example of our request form. And the request form is basically there to prevent double bookings, to make sure that everyone is kept apprised of what's there and what's happening in our event spaces. So preventing those double bookings to make sure that we're not making more work for us than we need to. Now with the solution, we have many ways that we can view that public-facing calendar. So when you're promoting your events, give people options to how they might want to look at it, whether it's this nice calendar view to see what's happening all throughout the month, or a list view for just a quick glance at maybe what's happening, or get a little bit more in depth with a summary view, which tells us a lot more information at first glance, when the event starts, where it's at, even assign GPS locations to those events. So for people who have never been to your locations or facilities before, we can just walk them door to door without having any problems. We can also connect with any social media, major social media. So if you want to promote your events through Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, our solution will be able to help you do that seamlessly. Now, also offered within the solution are ticketing, sale items, and registration. So if you would like to sell tickets to events, maybe some merchandising that might be associated with that event, wristbands, water bottles, T-shirts, promoting that event. We can do all of that within the solution, and it can be seen on the website, your public-facing website, and also paid for at that same spot. We can also register for events. So if you have any sort of classes or trainings or, again, panel series where you want to have a doctor speak to the public or other doctors, we can set up a registration to know who's coming and when they're coming. Now, with that being said, we can also create tickets that will be sent to their individual emails once they sign up. That will create a QR code for easy tracking, so we can scan them as they come in and keep track of that within the solution to be able to build reports at a later date. And the same thing goes for surveys. We talked about this a little bit before. Maybe we want to do a pre-event survey or a post-event survey. With the event manager, you'll have full access to create all the surveys that you want, keep track of them, create reports from them to get a better understanding of how we can improve our events from event to event. Within the solution, there is no limit to the approval routing. So this way we know for the different locations and different categories of events, again, all those differ, we can have them run through a specific approval routing, so that takes the guesswork out. So for certain locations, we can have it set that it needs to go to this person or this person or this person without any question. It's going to be real time, and we can move on. Task Management is a great feature for you because this allows you to speak to what we call service providers, the people that are setting up the events, maybe the food services or volunteers that need to know what their role is within that event. And we can communicate them to let them know, you need to do this, maybe set up tables or chairs or clean up beforehand. And all that can be done through the system. So we're not having to look at old emails or telephone calls or maybe pieces of paper that might get lost on a desk. Everything is going to be filtered through the solution for real-time and transparent overview. And at this point, I'd like to hand this part of the presentation back over to Zach.
Thanks so much, Trevor. Appreciate that, and thanks for all the insight that you just offered. So as Trevor was overviewing, we at Dude Solutions do offer a number of software solutions to help healthcare organizations with any of the problems that they have operationally. What we ran through today was Event Manager. It's a cloud-based platform developed for managing events from start to finish, like Trevor articulated. We also offer the Works Hub, which is our computerized maintenance management system that is it's used to prioritize and manage and ensure completion of compliance-related maintenance and more. We also offer a solution called Energy Manager, which is used to help manage your energy initiatives and track utility bills. So at this time, I'm going to launch a poll. Would you guys like any of the information that we covered? Would you like more information on Dude Solutions Energy Manager? Would you like a private demonstration of Dude Solutions Event Manager? Or do you want more information on other Dude Solutions offerings? So I'll leave this up for a little bit. Again, we just want to know how you would like to be followed up with, whether you would like more info on Dude Solutions Event Manager, private demonstration of Dude Solutions Event Manager, or maybe you want more information on other offerings that we have. So I'll leave that up just for a little bit longer. All right. So now we're going to hop into the Q&A section, Trevor. We received a couple of questions, and so I'm going to go ahead and tackle the first one. So the question says, you mentioned that not all events require the same promotional strategy. Could you give me an example of some events and how they might differ? Trevor, would you mind taking that one?
Yeah, not a problem. Example of some events and how they might differ. Yeah, so the way I usually like to think about this is in relation to social media strategies. And the way I promote a panel series is, featuring a couple of our organization's doctors is not going to be the same way that I might promote a 5K fundraiser. So instead of using LinkedIn for promoting that doctor's panel series, you might want to use Facebook for the 5K fundraiser fund run.
Yeah, awesome. I think another point there might be if I'm promoting the same sort of doctor speaker series, or maybe it's a fundraising gala that is a big event, I might want to couple some emails into that, some email promotion into that, along with promoting social media wise and all that. So great points. The next question that I see that just popped in is, what are some of the biggest obstacles that you have encountered, or maybe our clients have encountered, when they look at managing and organizing events at their hospital or at their organization? What do you commonly see, and maybe what are some of the ways that you've seen people overcome those?
So I think some of the most common problems we have and we see on a normal basis is the organization and not knowing where to go, but also double booking of rooms and facilities. Sometimes, you have too many calendars to look at, and people aren't looking at the same calendars. And so we need to be able to manage that and bring that into one. And also, again, the communication. There's a lot of gaps if we don't know the person that we need to go to. And so being able to streamline that communication into one focal point is where we see most people see more success. So being flexible, but also streamlining a process is going to help us out the most. And that's where I see most of the problem.
Awesome. Great insight, and really appreciate you hopping on with me, Trevor. Thanks everybody for attending. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Here's our contact information. Again, my name is Zach. Trevor Bergholz, thank you so much for helping me out. And this has been a great presentation. Hope to talk to you guys soon.